covering 4 seasons of one TV show in one episode is a massive challenge. And I won't pretend it's easy, but I want to push through and get this done because I know our week-to-week coverage of Daredevil Born Again is going to be way stronger and more manageable. Now, some argue that Born Again might be a soft reboot, meaning that not all of this might be necessary, but if it is, I want to make sure we have a solid foundation before we dive in. So let's break it all down. Daredevil Seasons 1, 2, The Defenders, and Season 3, bare bones, what we really are probably mostly going to need to know going into the new series, if anything. If you're a new fan of Daredevil, I would recommend also watching a couple of recaps slash videos by Screen Crush on this, and also New Rockstars. New Rockstars, I recently saw they're doing like a week-to-week big breakdown of every season. So if you're looking for more of a comprehensive, detailed breakdown, I would highly recommend listening to something like that. Thanks for understanding and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Marvel Maniac, an MCU after show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest, back with you to do the impossible, to get revved up, to get excited, and watch Daredevil and recap Daredevil seasons 1, 2, 3, and The Defenders between seasons 2 and 3. I want to cover the main story and things that can really be brought forward in this series. And I think this is a fantastic show. I wouldn't even blame you if you're like, I don't want to watch this, I just want to watch Born Again, and you haven't seen the other stuff. I'd say go for what your heart tells you. Don't force yourself to watch something. You're going to enjoy the Born Again more, in my opinion, if you don't want to watch the other stuff. If you just watch Born Again, it will make you want to go back and watch, because the characters, it seems like most of what we've known about most of these characters are staying. So there's a through line, and it's very special. So that's why I feel it's necessary to just go back into the origin a bit. I know there's a lot of things that happens in Netflix shows, especially because they're like 10 plus seasons each. Disney Plus does a better job, in my opinion, of cutting down the meat and giving us the whole story without much filler. And that being said, that's what I'm trying to do. I think I've said that 5 times instead of just getting into one of these seasons. So let's start with season 1, The Rise of Daredevil. Matt Murdock was blinded as a child. We see that in the show. The last image he sees is his dad. A chemical truck spilled all its goodies on the ground, and he was laying in it because he almost got hit by a car. And that's how he became blind. It's not how he became Daredevil. But how he did, however, start to learn from a mentor who, we could talk about a little bit. His name's Stick. We're gonna be seeing him a little bit, through this episode of 4 seasons. He's kind of a through line character as well. So he's trained by Stick once his father dies, because his father was a boxer. See, I'm going into way too details. His father was a boxer, and he died in the ring because he was supposed to take the loss and win a bunch of money from it. But he wanted to hear the crowd, hear his son, have the crowd cheer for his name so his son could hear it. And that was really sweet and sad. And it's definitely what Matthew Murdock, the foundation of his character, is running on, especially since he got blind. I mean, the fact that you're blind and then you decide to become a superhero, that's insane. And that's one of the things about this show that's really special, is how literally powerful Daredevil is, and how honed in on his senses and the way he fights. He's a force to be reckoned with. This season 1, so like I said, it's all about his origin. He's in a black kind of like way more vigilante type suit. I mean, he's technically a vigilante, right? Anyway, but he's kind of wearing like his Spider-Man Origins type suit. You know what I mean? Like the first time they do a really good slow burn in this show to him getting his suit in the final episode. And it's a big payoff. It makes you want to be like, give me season 2 now. I want season 2 right now. This first season also hugely introduces us to one of the greatest villains that are currently in the MCU, and that is Wilson Fisk. He's a powerful crime lord that takes over Hell's Kitchen. He controls the police. He controls the politician and the criminals. He has his hand in almost every pot. So corruption runs very deep. And I don't know how much we learn remember we learn about this kind of like underground terrorist group called the Hand, and they're like a bunch of serious super ninjas. I think that gets a little bit more delved into in season 2, but we do meet Wilson Fisk's like circle of power in this season, and oh my god, season 1, such a great self-contained story. It actually sets up like bosses for Matt to fight, like in a video game. Like I didn't remember it that way, but my binge watch, I kind of like a few months ago, I saw that and he takes them all down. And there is a fighter called Nobu who he has probably like the craziest fight with of the whole season, and he like nearly kills him. We also can't forget that Matt, he's a lawyer on top of all this, and he has a best friend named Foggy Nelson, and they have their law firm, which they opened at the beginning of the series, called Nelson and Murdoch. And in the first episode as well, they meet Karen Page, who is, I think, being framed or something, and Foggy doesn't believe in her, but in the long run of things, she becomes one of their closest allies and friends. However, in this season, Foggy does, towards the end, discover that Matt is Daredevil, and he feels very betrayed. And one, because he doesn't want him going out there risking his life. He doesn't know if he's ever going to be okay. He has to always worry about him. And two, because it's just irresponsible being a vigilante. The Battle of New York is referenced multiple times in this season. The thing is, this was on Netflix. They had the rights, and they didn't know. I don't know if they knew, or they were only able to give so much kind of a nod that it's in the same universe. While in the background, they're probably not allowed to say it's in the same universe. But now, years later, we're able to say this took place after the Battle of New York, and the references to that in the show, the incident they call it. It's a nice connection, and I think it was a really smart decision to put that in there when it was airing, because I think the creators knew one day he's going to be in the MCU, and we want to lay that groundwork a little bit. And that's one of my favorite parts of the series in general. Despite not being canonized officially, the show still plays its cards like it is going through the MCU as time passes, MCU passes. And as I said, all the events starting in this season, I believe, start fairly quickly after the Avengers. It's not said, but I'm wondering if Matt is a little bit inspired by the heroics of the Avengers, and maybe he wants to take on a mantle himself so he could protect his corner of the woods, which is really, really respectable and also dangerous. New friend Karen does go through some stuff, though, in this episode. She's investigating Fisk most of the episode, and she meets this guy called Ben Urich. He's a passionate reporter, and he wants to unveil the truth. He wants to get it all out. Well, what do you get when you got somebody like Ben Urich always wanting to take Fisk down? He gets murdered. And that gives Karen leaps of guilt. And Ben was a cool character. You could definitely see him if you wanted. Like, you can imagine him throughout the whole show. So his death was kind of a shock. And also, I don't know if he was the first guy Fisk killed, but Fisk is brutal. Like, you see the brutality of Fisk the first time you meet him. I think it might be the second or third episode. Some guy did him wrong, and he like kicked him into like the backseat of his car and like smashed the guy's head with the freaking door of the car. This is the most violence we've seen in the MCU. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine, yeah, maybe outdoes it a little bit, but this goes back to after the Avengers. This dirty underbelly of the New York crime scene is happening while the Avengers are readying up for whatever happens in Age of Ultron and whatnot. And I don't know if the Age of Ultron events get referenced. I don't remember that as well. I do recognize and remember like seeing the Leviathan, the Chitauri giant whale creature laying on the ground in the picture of the incident, they call it. And yeah, I'd say that nod is just about good enough to keep me super involved and excited, you know, as a fan, knowing we're going into Born Again. So basically the whole season is Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, taking down Fisk's inner circle and then bringing it down the hammer on Fisk himself. There's a moment before Daredevil gets his final suits where he has like a pre-boss battle with Fisk, and he gets his butt kicked, and the delivery of Fisk's words to Matt, "You ruined everything. You took everything from me." He's screaming, and it's awesome, and it's the rage we know to come from Wilson Fisk himself. When Matt gets his suit with the help of Melvin Potter, he's the suit maker for Daredevil and Kingpin. He noticed Kingpin's got this special lining in his suit that keeps him extra safe. So that final fight where Matt gets a suit, he whips Kingpin's ass, he sends him to jail, and he exposes his crimes. The day is saved by Daredevil. And all we can do is say, give me more. He's in his suit now. What happens next, you know? Daredevil season 1, honestly, a classic. I think all the Daredevil seasons have kind of a special thing going for them, especially because it's not a show that stays in one place. It takes its characters on journeys that change them as people, while you're watching. The one benefit to the longer Netflix style of show is to get way more character-driven material. So when the fights happen, like the iconic hallway fight of this season, that inspired maybe 10 more hallway fights in the Netflix MCU universe, which is just the MCU now. That hallway fight in this season is insane, and it is one of the coolest set pieces you've seen in the MCU to date on this TV show. So for me, that's the TV show saying, look, we might take our time sometimes, but we are going to deliver the action. And as an MCU fan, who doesn't want a little bit of like insane, awesome action on top of their plot? I think outsiders don't know that that's happening with these shows. Okay, that's over 10 minutes for season 1. Again, this is a disclaimer. I've been overthinking, and my mind has been like having a headache trying to figure out how to cover this. Watch 40 episodes in 3 weeks, or I could have seen this coming from months away, but we learn. And I've been in the moment since Deadpool and Wolverine, trying to deliver a different style of content, covering all the MCU along with the things that are currently happening. So this is the hardest recap I've ever had to do. You probably know more about that now than you do about the show. But I just want to give you that disclaimer. So season 2, big characters to note, the Punisher and Elektra. A big character to keep your mind over, Wilson Fisk. He's in jail. He's still in jail. The Punisher does meet him. The Punisher's an anti-hero, okay? His whole family was killed, I believe, by one of the gangs in New York. And because Fisk was arrested, all these other gangs have started popping up. So it's kind of ironic. Matt, it's like Hydra. You take one head and 2 more rise. Matt is still, at the beginning of this series, dealing with the fallout of Kingpin's takedown. The first few episodes have definitely season opener, season finale energy, like from a big show. So season 2 really knew, I think, running in, that it had a lot of audience anticipation, because the first few is Frank Castle wreaking havoc on New York gangs. He wages a war on crime. It's insane. And Matt versus the Punisher, they have one really cool fight in the first 2 episodes on rooftops. I could see it like visually in my mind right now. There's a clash of ideologies there. Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, he does get arrested, but he later escapes in yet another iconic hallway scene from this show. The blood is everywhere, and viewer discretion advised. I don't know if they're going to be doing all this on Disney Plus. The only thing I could keep in my mind, like that they will do it, is because I said they would keep it up, and they'll keep leveling up the show. I honestly think they're going to do the show the justice it deserves. I think we have the best seasons of Daredevil ever, and I think the best season of Daredevil ever is still to come. Born Again, super promising. So we learned a lot more about the Hand in this season. His former lover / accomplice, Elektra, who Jennifer Garner played in the older movies of Daredevil, and she had her own spin-off movie. You could see her in Deadpool and Wolverine. That's kind of a spoiler, but come on, if you haven't seen that yet, you gotta watch the MCU, my friend. You're not missing out on. Well, you're missing out on everything. You got to watch it. I hate overwhelming people, though, with all the stuff that they could watch to get the cohesive story. You know what I'm saying? Instead, I just tell them to watch it, and I drop them in the heat of it. I think every MCU project has the potential to be the first movie they've ever seen. And if you like that movie, you go back and watch, or you watch however you want. We're watching a Spider-Man trilogy with my friend Loser Beam in our community, Twitch community, and Discord. We've been watching all of the Spider-Men, starting from Tobey Maguire, and we just finished Andrew Garfield's the night before last, I think. And, gosh, that's my least favorite Spider-Man movie. I even told them in there, I was like, this is my least favorite. But that's because we get the new Tom Holland Spidey, and we're about to start him off. Now, I want to fill in all the gaps and let my friends know what happens in between Peter's story. But at the same time, since we're watching his movies as a trilogy, we're not watching Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. We're going right into Homecoming, No Way Home. Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. Those movies sound way too alike, those last two. We're going to watch those three. We're not going to watch the Avengers. It's too much for like a group to take on. Plus, I said, if you feel like you want any recaps of the stuff that's in between, let me know. I think it's going to be really cool to see how she reacts to just seeing those movies and not the Avengers. So part of me is like, I'm not going to give her any recap. This is how we mess with our incoming fans and get satisfaction from knowing they get, I think any one of these movies can invest people in the whole MCU, like I'm saying. Like Fantastic Four. I'm bringing my brother and his girlfriend, and then TJ is going to bring his wife, and we're going to all see that movie because that's an accessible entering movie to the MCU. I know it is because it takes place in a different universe, and I'm almost positive the multiversal stuff won't start happening, if at all, to the very end of the film. If you're new to the show, welcome to my rants. Any constructive feedback, positive thoughts, things about the show that you really loved and stuck out that I didn't talk about, MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. Send me an email. It'll be featured on the show most likely, unless it's horribly mean, and I'm not challenging you to do that either. I just like talking to you guys and getting the scoop on how everybody feels. I don't want to go blindly into a mindset without hearing the others and what the general fan base thinks, even though sometimes I may disagree with the general fan base. They're there for a reason, and they keep the movies in check. So criticism is never a bad thing. It just should be constructive, in my opinion. So Elektra, as I was saying, I got pulled off because they go toe-to-toe with the Punisher, gets him arrested, he gets out, so that's happening. But Elektra kind of becomes the main second half story. She's a deadly assassin, and she's tied to the Hand, this underground criminal organization that was sided with Fisk, but it's kind of started to take over, and they have a big plan because in this series, spoiler alert, we're spoiling all the show, Elektra does die. And Elektra is part of an operation that of the Hand called Operation Black Sky. And it's to resurrect her and turn her into like this ultimate warrior, which is about to happen in Defenders. Matt chooses Elektra over his friends in the season. He's very, very much living in the suit this season, which is really cool to see, considering we didn't get him in the actual suit until the end of season 1. So, like, we wanted this. And Foggy distances himself from Matt a little bit as Karen gets closer to Frank. It's just for Foggy, there's a lot of morality going around, and he is one of the most moral characters in the show. He's one of the brightest lights in the show. I think Matt needs him in his life for the balance. What a fantastic actor. And I'm so sorry I don't have your name right now. Forgive me in this era of trying to recap 4 seasons of a Netflix show as if it's a freaking a problem. It's actually opposite. I'm so excited for Born Again that I want to be like, this happened and this happened and this happened and then this happened. And like, I'm so pumped. I got to slow myself down a little bit. Another thing I really like about these 2 seasons and this show is when Matt goes face to face with Nobu again, he gets very, very hurt. And Matt gets hurt a lot. And when he gets hurt, I mean, like, he's on the verge of dying. Superhero fights, like in the Avengers, Tony falling from the sky, nearly dying after putting a nuke through the wormhole. I still don't think he got his ass kicked. Similar to, like, Matt Murdock really gets his ass kicked sometimes. And he needs like sometimes full episodes to recover. And I kind of like that. It really kind of feels like you're put in the same boat as Matt Murdock. And you can kind of see his perspective, which is seeing the world in flames, but like a little more complicated than that. Maybe even similar to the opening title sequence with all the blood running over everything. I would hate for that to be the only thing I see. But if I could see actual things through that and I was blind, I would probably take that deal. Yeah. But if I was bartering for it with someone or something, I definitely would be arguing for a different perspective that's not the dropping blood all over the place. Yeah, so the final battle with the Hand is kind of the climax of this season. Frank Castle does show up to help his buddy Red, as he calls him, to take down a lot of the Hand that are charging Matt. And, Elektra does die, and Matt is heartbroken. And forgive me for not knowing. I do not know how the Hand eventually gets her body. I think it might have been in a post-credit scene or something. However, if Matt's heartbroken now, the Defenders will probably most likely break him down more. However, he has a new team of superheroes that have been built up over the previous 2 to 3 years in the Netflix universe, currently merged in a non-threatening incursion, combining the worlds of Matt Murdock, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Danny Rand, aka the Iron Fist, in the Defenders. This was a secondhand Avengers. Anyone who wanted the Avengers wanted this. It was definitely built up to. We knew as the other characters were being introduced that this was going to be leading to a Defender series. I remember when Avengers came out, young me, a lot younger, 2012, was like, why don't they just get together and fight big bad guys already? Instead of the build up to them actually becoming a team and that actually becoming the like center point of the story, the forming of the Avengers, the first time they assemble. So in this show, I personally believe they had plans for more seasons of Defenders because they kept going, even on shows I didn't know, like Luke Cage and Danny Rand's Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones for season 3. She has 3 seasons, so 2 full seasons after the events of this show. They really do a lot more world building, including the Punisher's 2 seasons after this show, after season 2. So if you're a fan of this, after, before, currently Born Again, I would not hesitate to recommend any of these shows to you, except, okay, Iron Fist is a little off, and I couldn't get through the rest of the Netflix series because of Iron Fist season 2. So I mean, I'm gonna recommend keeping an open mind. If you're binge watching all these series, give yourself the time to do it. Don't skip Iron Fist season 2 in the watch, honestly, and watch. Make sure you get to Daredevil season 3 because it's the best. And I can't attest to seeing Punisher season 2 or Jessica Jones season 3. Both very good shows, but Daredevil season 3, it's more of a centerpiece, and it, I mean, we're not there yet. We're still got a little talking about the Defenders we want to do, but I personally was brought into this world because of Matt Murdock, but now I actually love the Defenders. Seeing Jessica Jones with Matt, I mean, after you watch her show with Kilgrave, this guy, this enemy she has that can literally control people to do things they don't want against their will. Terrifying. In the comics, I believe he's called the Purple Man. We get Luke Cage, who is a man of steel. Bullets do not penetrate him. They have to literally, in his second season, make bullets that can get through his thick skin. And then the plot line of maybe 3 seasons is the through line character, the Doctor. I gotta say her. I can look up her name real fast. I mean, it's Rosario Dawson who plays Ahsoka on Disney Plus. I just can't think of the character's name. She's kind of a throughout most of the seasons of the show, ends up dating Luke Cage. She keeps her hand in business. Also, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, his friend / accomplice / trainer, she becomes kind of a big part of like his team as well. So double date energy right there. So when these guys are finally assembled for the first time, it even seems like almost by accident, we get the return of Elektra as Black Sky, and now she's the leader of the Hand. Despite what the giant cameo / character reveal of Sigourney Weaver apparently being the master of this puppet, Elektra turns on her and takes the role for herself when she's fully become Black Sky. So, what is the Hand's ultimate goal? Throughout all the talking and character building in this series, where's this final set piece taking place? Well, it's pretty big. They want to extract dragon bones that are under New York City, way under New York City. Like in this, it goes like hundreds of feet down into New York City. They want this so they can gain immortality. So naturally, this leads to a final battle at Midland Circle, where in New York this is happening, and Matt is not really even bent on taking down the Hand. He wants to get them out of the way. More or less, he wants to save Elektra. He does the fight. They stop the bad guys. They do what they have to do. Except Matt doesn't leave Elektra's side. And it is presumed at the end of this series that he's dead. And forgive me not remembering this part. Hold on, from memory here. Again, this episode's slightly rushed.
I had mental blocks over covering it. I'm loving talking about it right now. I don't feel guilty about not rewatching all this because I just watched it a few months ago. I want you to know, as an audience member, you being here right now means the world. So Matt dies. And this is the part I'm not sure I remember. I know there's a post-credit scene. I think we find that he is alive. However, we do learn that in season 3 that he did make the cut. I don't know how I could sum up Defenders in 5 minutes. There's a lot of the quirky heroes getting to know each other type energy in this show. And a lot of catch up towards the beginning of like what the heroes are up to, what they've been up to, and a lot of lead up to them getting together. Plus, they meet Stick, and Stick gets to warn everyone about something I can highlight and talk a little bit more about is the action when it happens. It's really cool. If you buy into these characters, you get to see a little bit more out of their powers. I will say that it does feel like through some of the Netflix show, they hold back on using some of the heroes' powers for budget, right? There's a budget, and it's a TV show budget. Jessica Jones, for example, I think she has like a super jump ability where she can like just literally leap on top of a building, and she's got super strength. We really get to see it exemplified a bit more in this series than anywhere else. In her own series, I mean, after this, it starts to happen a bit more too. But she definitely uses her powers sparingly. And to see her use them more often is really cool. Because she's the most, not level-headed, she definitely follows her leads straight into the dark wherever they may lead. However, she's definitely like a ground level character that you can easily forget she has superpowers. Luke Cage on the outside looks like this just incredibly strong dude. He could be a wrestler, he could be a boxer. Apparently his skin is impenetrable. So that kind of makes it easy on no physical effects whatsoever, like a Hulk or the Thing from Fantastic Four. He has similar powers, but it doesn't really need VFX, which is great. So the teams up reluctantly. And like I said, that's a lot of the runtime of the show. But I think it's very important to learn what was going on with Elektra, with the hand, taking the hand down, teaching the other characters who don't know about what the hand is. I believe Iron Fist was fighting the hand on his own before he even came into contact with Daredevil. But yeah, this whole place is collapsed on top of them. Everyone gets out but Matt, and we think he dies. He's presumed dead, but he survives waking up in a covenant. So that is okay. So he does wake up at the end, so we know him to be alive. But to everyone else, he's presumed dead. Which is why the season I haven't rewatched yet. And now that I'm doing this recap, I might just binge it, even after talking about it here. It's the fall and rise of Daredevil, and we see Matt at his lowest point in this episode. He's recovering from the injuries of the battle at Midland Circle, and he's actually refusing help from Foggy and Karen. There's a moment in the beginning. I actually watched season 3, episode 1, and he tells Karen that he's Daredevil. I don't know if that was it looked like a flashback though, so there might have been a moment where he told her that in the last few shows, or it just I don't know. It happened. I gotta watch season 3 again. But season 3 is a great season 2. We get the return of Kingpin as he's manipulating the FBI while still in custody, trying to regain power. He still loves Vanessa. Something I didn't mention enough about Kingpin in the beginning. He has a very intricate backstory, and like Thanos, who I'll always compare our villains to, he is definitely a ground level Thanos. He's so cool. And even more so in the comics, how Thanos does everything for death. His beloved Vanessa isn't dead and commanding him. However, she is the rock in his foundation, and he is deeply, deeply in love with her, and he'll do anything for her, especially to stay with her. So he meets her. He buys a painting off her. I think it's called Rabbit in a Snowstorm. It's a completely white, like, painting with, you can see it's like different colors of white. It's very plain, but very artsy. And we learn in a flashback how Wilson Fisk became who he is. And the actor who plays his father, he's on The Wire. Great actor. I don't have his name on hand. He's terribly abusive to Fisk and Fisk's mom. So bad. And they show it throughout the whole episode to the end where he's about to be beating his wife. Young Wilson Fisk takes a hammer and kills his dad. It's like, what? And even in the show, oh my God, I forgot I needed to cover this. I never covered this. Echo. Great show. The hammer is referenced to, him
getting rid of his problems, his dad. It was not a regret for him, even through the furthest point we've seen him in the MCU. Also, I have to skip to the end of Echo. Spoiler alert, however, you're going to know this when you watch the show. It's even in the trailers. Fisk gets this revelation after his run-in with Echo, his niece, who doesn't really want him anymore because he's evil. He hears on the news that there's an opening, an opportunity for a guy like him to be the mayor of New York City. And you see him like lean into the TV. He seems very interested. So that's where we leave him in Echo, which is a later show, past season 3 of Daredevil. Like I said, okay, Matt's like at his lowest point. Again, he's recovering from a building falling on him. You know what I mean? I mean, only the Hulk can survive something like that usually. He's questioning his faith. He's refusing his help from Foggy and Karen, like I said earlier. There's this new character, really cool. He was actually the villain in the original Daredevil movie. I remember this because he was just a cool bad guy. Daredevil versus Bullseye. An FBI agent, Ben Poindexter, or Dex, he's recruited by Fisk. And he does something that really bothers me. He impersonates Daredevil. He wears a Daredevil suit. He goes out. Fisk's plan is to make Daredevil look bad. And it's very efficient because Dex, a.k.a. Bullseye, is a pro. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he turns out to be one of, if not the greatest adversaries of Daredevil. And I'm going to go as far as saying I think, if not, I'm positive, he's going to be in Born Again. He'll be in it for just a bit. And, it's rumored that all the Defenders are going to be there, too. So if we're talking about a revival, we're bringing everybody back to the party. And, man, I couldn't be more excited about that. So I don't know how he gets his suit. So go spoil that for yourself in your rewatch. I know if you're listening to this, I just know the people who are watching Born Again without seeing this will love Born Again so much that they'll come back and watch this. And it's really not a big deal if you don't. Don't feel pressure to do that. But I just think for a lot of people, that's just the way it's going to be. So let's stay tuned for how Bullseye steals Daredevil's suit. I think Daredevil gave up on being Daredevil maybe. And he had one of those Spider-Man moments where he like leaves his suit in the can and he's like walking away from it in slow motion. There's a showdown at Fisk Penthouse. This is, from what I remember, one of the coolest fights in the show. Matt, Bullseye, and Fisk have this 3-way battle. And holy shit, I just watched the fight online because I didn't want to be wrong about them fighting each other at once. And then I instantly remembered that Bullseye is against Kingpin, and it literally is Daredevil versus Bullseye versus Kingpin. And one of the best fights. You'll go watch it. Go watch it on YouTube. I mean, like, I'm still going to watch season 3, but I watched the climax just now again, and man, I am hyped for this show. Like, if it's anything like the ending of season 3, what a killer fight. That must have taken a long time to shoot. And we get Kingpin in his completely white suit that we see him in the comics all the time. And something that I didn't like when it came out, but I love now, is that Daredevil Matt, why I named him like that, why he's actually wearing his original suit from the first season, his underground suit. So he looks like old Daredevil with all the experience he's gained as new Daredevil. And Bullseye still has his suit, who shows up to the fight, mid-fight between Daredevil and Kingpin. So that's a mystery to me, but I also think the first full circle of him probably having his final fight in this outfit as a callback to the beginning of the series and just for the fans in general. I think it's honestly excellent homage to the show and bringing what story they told up to this point full circle. And leaving it open for, honestly, you put this time gap in between that last season where most likely the snap was about to happen, right? And we're gonna. I hope we do find out who was snapped and who wasn't, because if in the case of Kingpin, I think it'd be a very good thing to know if he was snapped or not snapped, because that affects how he starts to run his criminal enterprise and how he sees things and how he's going to be operating this series. Same with Murdoch. Anyone who got snapped, I'm kind of curious, but at the same time, this Born Again show might even be like taking place 3 years after the events of the snap. I mean, time has moved forward. We just haven't seen them. So
I'm curious about it. I think I've said that for almost every Marvel show. Like, did the snap? Did it from Thanos? Did it affect this hero? Did it do it to that hero? Did they stay? Did they go? Did they come? Did they go? It just makes you wonder for the characters you have. You don't have a number on. Something tells me Matt didn't, and his friends and Kingpin did. So that would be the saddest world for Matt. No enemy and no friends. And probably similar to Hawkeye, I'd imagine he'd be running the streets. And maybe like Andrew Garfield in No Way Home, maybe he just starts pulling some of those punches. I don't know. But I hope we do get a little backstory. Honestly, guys, talking about the season was a therapy I think I needed. And having these bullet points online kind of helped me remember what was happening, so I can just react to the moments to you. And that disclaimer in the beginning, I was thinking about deleting it, but I'm keeping it because mental health again is a big deal right now for everyone in the country. And if this might be like someone younger, they might relate it to a school project, or someone who's just trying to follow their dream and they can't just take that step. It's hard. There are days like this where I wasn't in the best mental place, where an episode like this, because it's so big and daunting in my eyes, it would stop me whole and I wouldn't even do the show. I've changed, and like Matt Murdock, I've grown, and I'm proud of myself for coming back, because it's something I've always wanted to do. And my sickness, my problems, they don't define me. How you react to your problems and your issues in life is what defines you. And anyone out there doubting themselves, you're loved. And that's the most generic thing that can be said. But it's said for a reason. We all want you to be okay. We want everyone to be okay, except for the evil supervillains. But I want Wilson Fisk to be okay, because there's a heart to his character, and that's what makes the show work at its best when Kingpin is involved. Which is why we have him, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Charlie Cox. We get both the big baddies coming back. We get Punisher. We've seen it in the trailers coming back. He has a fantastic show. If anything, first season is all I saw. He's got 2 seasons. Man, I'm going to probably be watching these shows week to week in between the times of Daredevil, because just this universe is finally being brought to the MCU. And it's been a long time coming, and it's a payoff for the fans who wanted this to happen. The fans who really felt like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Punisher could have been running into the battle at Endgame with them. We wanted that, something like that. And it's finally happening. And that's just, whew, as a fan of that and MCU and them coming together, I'm getting the chills, because if time passes, you can forget how awesome something is and how bad you wanted something. I remember by the chills on my arm I'm looking at right now how bad I wanted to see Daredevil on screen with the Avengers, okay? And I did hear a fact by someone recently, I think it was in a YouTube video. In the comics, Daredevil doesn't even show up to the big superhero fights because he's blind. He needs to be able to hear around him, and so he's better in like one-on-one or miniature fights in back rooms and stuff. And I think that's really cool. And that's what people want from Spider-Man. They want to see a Daredevil Spider-Man team up taking down Kingpin. Because Kingpin in the comics is very much a Spider-Man villain as well. So I'd love to see a Tom Holland cameo on Born Again. We can only hope. Most likely not going to happen. However, anything can happen. It's open. There's like a 0.1% chance that can happen. So let's hope for something cool. Personally, I just want to see how they expand on this story many years later, and how it is when it's run by Disney, and even they hold things to even higher standards. So I think every episode's going to pack that punch. They did some reshoots when Disney's always making them correct if they feel like something's off. And all I could say is we're about to be born again, and I think covering this show week to week with you guys starting Tuesday. They air at 8 p.m. Central Time, I believe. And I'm going to be covering them week to week, and I'm going to try to put them out the night of. It's hard when shows come out that day, and that night I got to finish that night, so I'll just put it up when I'm finished with it and whatnot. I'm excited for it and be ready for that. MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. Apologies on the one episode this week. I needed a little bit of a break to prepare for this one, and it's only probably one of the only breaks I'm going to take for a while. I do plan on doing 2 episodes a week, especially when we fall in the flow of Daredevil Born Again. There will be that second episode about something otherly MCU related, basically where it is, new trailers, just anything in MCU. I love it. I'm excited to talk about more Spider-Man with you guys. I want to talk about Miss Marvel, the Marvels, and basically anything I haven't touched on about the MCU. I want to get into everything, whether it's a whole season recap to keep the pace good, or week by week. We'll see what we do with Miss Marvel. Towards the end, Matt, Foggy, and Karen reunite, and Nelson and Murdoch is reborn, but it also has the added Paige. Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige. Karen is a part of the team now. She's been in it with them through it all. They've all had their ups and downs together. Now everything's on the table, so they can operate as a law agency. They could be lawyers, and they can cover for Matt when he's out doing Daredevil stuff, which I'd like to believe by now, at least by Born Again, that Foggy and Karen, I hope they're more in acceptance of, like they're still worried, but I'm hoping that they're more in an acceptance phase of him being Daredevil, instead of kind of like trying to convince him out of that lifestyle, since he's definitely like not leaving it. I didn't mention, because I just learned March 4th, 2025, 8 p.m. Central, Daredevil Born Again premieres. 2 episodes start. So I've yet to decide how I'm going to cover those. I might do one at a time in different episodes. I usually can get by doing 2 episodes in one if that's how they air. So I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to watch the shows and I'll decide on the night. Don't worry though. Like let's say I post the first episode Tuesday night, I will most likely post a second recap the day after. So the schedule with new shows, it's not my fault. Disney just moves them around. They're trying out different places for shows, different time slots. And you know what? You got to try every equation to get the right one. So I'm not mad at it. However, if this messes with me entering an algorithm, who cares? I'm doing this because I love it. And I just want you to know that the episodes are coming. But if they don't come like right away, just relax. Honest is on his way. He's taking his time to the best of his ability to probably rant about what an awesome show this is. I pray. MarvelManiacPod at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. We're at MarvelManiacPod on most of your platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. X, sorry. Should know that by now. We have a tip jar in our comments. I can't overexpress how much that goes to help the show and keep the lights on and to keep things in order in my life. However, never expected and always appreciated. It is my great pleasure to have had you here with me today. Thank you for listening to my recap. And until Tuesday, when we talk about Daredevil Born Again, the first episode, Avengers Disassemble.